Evita or Eva Peron, the Argentinian who had married to the general that became the president of Argentina, and she had tried to run to be the vice president. Her death, in my mind, is basically murder, assassination. Um, a brief history is that her father was one of the rich men in the country, and he had his official family, but in Argentina, I understand in those days, Argentina, as they call it, you could have had several families. And so he got together with Evita, a mom, and she had about 3 or 4 kids, um, Evita being one of them. And eventually he moved back to his official first family where all the wealth was residing and so forth, and left all his other homes poor, including Ibita. And so she, grew up hating the rich for what he has done to her, uh, and so on. And at his funeral, they were allowed to go, but they briefly stayed, maybe viewed the body, and the official wife had them dispatched. And so she somehow felt as though she has talent, or she did have talent, and she moved from the countryside where they lived and went into town and tried a few things. She wanted to get into acting and so on. And eventually she was able to be spotted by this general who had divorced his wife or whatever, and he married her, and with the opportunity she excelled. Great orator, able to work with the poor, and develop a popularity. And I think perhaps she might have been the catalyst to for the people to vote for her husband. Now, I understand somebody said that she mentioned that she wouldn't like to be in the same room with the oligarchs. She hated them so much. And but the military had dispatched the husband and her, I think, overthrew him or whatever, had him in prison, and she was able to, probably, to get him released, etc. So, but eventually, though, she was able to get some of her dreams done. Some poor areas, they built up the area and had some services, and the poor, and generally, I think, in general, in Argentina, have had a reasonably better life. But she was working on the poor and the laborers to get them better quality of life and pay and whatever. And this endeared her to them. And at her death, there were tons of roses thrown over the Capitol, and sympathy and so on. But I think if she was given a chance to be the president, she would have done a lot for the country. And primarily, she wanted to help the poor and the working class. Now, that's a bad thing to do. I mean, she should have realized that the big shots are the ones that call the shots, and they have the money, and they can move the economy, and they invest, and they do a whole bunch of things. So if she could have worked a partnership, as probably just hating the oligarchs and just in love with the working and the poor, working class and the poor, I think she might have done better. Forget the past, forget the animosity towards her father, the rich guy that did them wrong. And so she had cancer. What I understand is ovarian cancer, and that was a bad sign. I mean, she definitely showed oratory skills. She good in public speaking and could command the attention and the support of the people, etc. She doesn't have to give long speeches. She's very concise and very pregnant in her conceptualizations that people take it away, and they have a whole year of speech from just her little brief presentations. But I think the ovarian cancer was primarily to indicate to her, listen, you're gonna have no kids, because if she had kids, the Peron sort of legacy might have extended to these kids, and they would have killed all of them. So what I understand is that her body, when they buried it in Argentina, it was buried under a different name. They didn't want to have a cult, people going down to the grave and getting high and coming back saying they're going to vote to overthrow the oligarch, or some person endeared to her and want to become an ex-Peron. So then I understand when the husband was overthrown and he went to Spain, her body I think went to Italy, and eventually when he was returned, they brought back the body and so on. So they say it's an odyssey of the body. The body has been all around, but that cancer, that uterus, that was suspect. I don't know how they were able to do it, but whoever did it in such a way that they can't have no kids. Supposedly they had 5 kids, and well, the military also wasn't happy because he's winning, and perhaps the military is controlled by the oligarchs, and he might be wanted to do what his wife is talking about, helping the poor and helping the working class, and the military is siding with the big shots. So they rung them up and get them out of there. But then the popularity and the civil unrest that they probably feared that was fermenting, they bring them back and so on. So they had no kids to really, say that here's the Peron. As in India, where the Gandhis, you always see a Gandhi coming and head the party and going to get knocked off, get killed and so on. So this is what they might have. They try to prevent having to kill the Perons every now and then. One show up talking politics, and then people behind them just knock them off or kill all them straight up, so that they don't even have a chance to flex that political supposed blue blood political family and all the stuff that people tend to think that because parents might be successful politicians that all the kids going to be dissimilar, and so they're worried about it. And then probably some people might coach them, as it were, and make speeches to them, write speeches, and design the wear and so on, and they might indeed look smart, but they may not even. But then again, sometimes the parents might even not even be smart. It's just that they were poor, and all bridges were burnt, and so they had to go forward, trotting it through and braving it and talking big and so on, and develop some political capital, etc. I don't want to call the families here in America that fit the same bill here. The parents, they aren't smart, but they were able to position themselves, and the enemy see that they could use them, so they galvanize them and put them into a nice position. And then they're saying, oh, the kids, this kid's going to be just like the parents. But the parents and the kids, all them dumb alike. And, you can see some of them, if you recall any such, they end up doing stupid stuff. Because that's the role. The role is to put them in place so that, you could get them to sell the country out or whatever. So Evita Peron, it's a tragedy though that she had to put the poor and the working class above the oligarchs, or them versus the oligarchs. So she could have worked a medium and give the oligarchs all they need, and try to help the poor. And that might have worked, as opposed to just ignoring them. And I mean, she should know that you can't get anywhere with that. Even the military, you're going to join with the oligarchs. The oligarchs, the generals and all them came from the ruling class, from these big oligarchs. So what do you expect? And so, it's a wonderful life that could have blessed the world, I guess, just snuffed out. But as I say, or hatred for the oligarchs, and setting up this Puronic sort of dynasty. I think they thought that was bad for Argentina, so they dispatched her with some cancer.